The Assumption of Applejack, or Appletheosis, by Blueprint. Chapter 1. Numa. Idja cantered up one of the many hills overlooking the vast orchards of Sweet Apple Acres. She paused a moment, and sighed with contentment. The crop was ripening nicely, and the Pegasi had been prompt with the rains this season. The trees had been pruned and fertilized, and everything was in perfect order in her little corner of the world. Sure, there would still be more to do tomorrow. There always was, and always would be, but she could be content knowing that she had put in an honest day's work. Celestia's sun sank low in the west, shedding its last few golden rays across the green earth. Working her hooves deeper into the yielding sod, Idja reveled in the natural earth pony connection to the soil. She could feel the quiet potency of the rich loam. It seemed to sing to her of new life and abundance. Applejack chuckled. She must be pretty worn out to be getting all poetic like this. Still, there was something special in the air and in the soil tonight. Faint shimmering of something magical, more felt than seen. Tilting her hat forward over her eyes, she breathed deep, taking in the richness of ripening fruit and the gentle fullness of a rainstorm on the horizon. She paused, holding that breath. Rich, full, magical, alive. For what seemed like the first time, and through closed eyes, she saw the world for what it was. She seemed to grasp the simplicity of existence and the harmony which pervaded everything, earth, sky, and ether. Exhilarated, she inhaled again, filling her lungs to bursting with the energy and simple joy that illuminated her being. For a brief moment, she felt completely centered in the world, as though she had truly found her place in it, a place from which she could not be moved nor shaken. Finally, after the endless and endlessly full moment, she exhaled. Calm now, and more at peace than she had ever felt, she opened her eyes. She was startled at what she saw. Instead of the burgeoning fields of her farm, all that greeted her eyes was swaying brown felt. Rearing back, she tossed her head. Her hat flew off, landing at the base of a small tree. Unsure how it had fallen in her eyes like that, she bent down to pick it back up. Something stopped her before she could reach it. A branch she hadn't seen, or something, poked her in the forehead. Taking a step back, she scanned the trunk. It was bare. Confused, she scratched her head with a fetlock. Her hoof hit something hard and sensitive. What in tarnation? She stumbled back in shock, an audible whoomph. Freezing in place, she turned her eyes to the side. At the corners of her vision was a silky array of orange feathers, spread in surprise. Not daring to move, she shuddered as a gentle breeze ruffled the feathers. Idja was a sensible pony, not usually given to flights of fancy or drama, like some of her friends. Taking a deep breath, she steadied herself. Alright, let's just look at the situation here. I got wings and a horn. Nothing hurts, and it ain't like I'm missing bits, I think. Now worried, she gave herself a once-over. Legs, 1, 2, 3, 4. Though they were longer, and even more toned than before. Tail, check. Mane, check. Though she'd lost her hair tie. Cutie mark? No check. The trio of apples that had adorned her flanks since fillyhood were gone. In their place was a blue circle with crossbars instead. Resting it under it was a stylized apple leaf. Oddly, she wasn't upset by this. A cutie mark was supposed to represent the destiny and deepest desires of a pony. Thinking back to a minute ago, she did indeed feel that there was some subtle change in her purpose to go with her new appearance. Ever practical, her first concern was for her farm. Walking to a tree with a few early apples on it, she gave it an experimental buck. Every apple on the tree fell, along with a large portion of the leaves. A significant dent was punched into the splintered bark where her hooves had made contact. She frowned at the damage. Her next attempt was much gentler. This tree yielded its fruit to her as normal, giving no small relief to the farmer. Whatever else this new form meant, at least the harvest was in no danger. It might even go easier than usual. Her livelihood safe, she spent a minute in stillness, just trying to feel the extensions to her body. The wings were odd, but responded to her thoughts easily enough. Trying to fly seemed a mite risky without anyone to spot for her. She had no idea how to use a horn. Concentrating and sticking her tongue out failed to elicit even a single spark. At any rate, it didn't get in the way of her hat as long as she tilted it back a bit further than usual. Shrugging, she turned towards home. It was getting late, and there were chores to do in the morning. Whatever had just happened to her didn't change her responsibilities in the slightest. Maybe tomorrow afternoon she could find some time to talk to Twilight about it. As she neared the homestead, she saw Mac hanging up his harness for the night. Walking past him, she greeted him with a yawn. "Evening, big brother." AJ! Steady stallion reared up in shock. His little sister now towered over him by a good head height or more. She suddenly had the wings, build, and horn of a goddess. Not just an alicorn, but more like one of the royal sisters. To say that he was speechless, while unsurprising, would also be a gross understatement. "What?" Applejack glanced back at her new wings. "Oh, these? I don't know. They just popped out of nowhere while I was out in the back 40. I figured, what the hey? I got 'em now. No sense getting your saddling a bunch over 'em." "Big sis, they ain't." Big Macintosh trailed off. "That's right. They ain't. They ain't that big a deal. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm tired, and I'm going to bed. I suggest you do the same." She cantered inside and upstairs with exaggerated dignity. The effect was fairly impressive, considering her current look. Impressive, that is, until she struck her horn on a low-hanging rafter. "Consarn it!" Prying the point free, she continued up the stairs, just a little dizzier than before. The early dawn found Applejack stiff and sore in places she knew were impossible. Sleeping with wings was apparently something that took a bit of practice. No wonder Rainbow always napped in clouds. Groaning, she rolled out of the now too small bed and onto her hooves. She walked over to her mirror and began brushing her mane. Despite Rarity's complaints and little jabs, Applejack did care about her appearance, just not enough to wear makeup or clothes. Her blonde mane had almost doubled in volume since yesterday. The golden waves refused to sit neatly in a hair tie, so she let her mane hang free, curling loosely around her face and neck. Trying downstairs, she grabbed an apple on her way out to the cow barn. Granny Smith looked up at her granddaughter as she passed by. Squinting a bit, she noticed something different about the mare. "My stars, but they grow up fast," she said as she turned back to the pie crust she was rolling out. The resident cows were grumpy as usual in the early morning. The bright light streaming into the barn, coupled with uncomfortable udders, left them all on edge. Muriela shook her head and blinked sleep out of her eyes as Applejack entered with the milking pails. Something was off about her today. Their caretaker seemed much larger than life, as big as one of the girls, if quite a bit thinner. The cow's eyes scanned down to the pony's sides. Something orange rustled against her sides, blending into their coat. Muriela's eyes widened in horror. She had heard about reptiles in distant places that could change color to blend in. Maybe the local snakes have learned how to... Oh no! Snake! The ensuing panic was brief but furious. Applejack looked around herself, dumbfounded, as the entire herd reared and bucked in fear. The stalls were still closed from the night, preventing a stampede, but there were still one or two cows who managed to hurt themselves, trying to escape from the imaginary horror. Face-hooking in frustration, Applejack shouted to the startled bovines, "Girls, settle down!" The shout came out as a deafening roar, rocking the entire barn with its force. Instant silence reigned. AJ herself was more than a little bit startled at the sound. Every single one of the cows was huddled at the back of their her respective stall, eyes rolling and darting about in abject terror. Well, there goes the morning, she thought. Apple Bloom sat up from her bed with a start. That had sounded like her sister. She jumped down and ran out her door, not bothering to grab a bow. As she slid down the banister, she spotted her brother frozen in shock. He turned to look at her as she hopped to the floor. "Stay here, Blooms," he said as he galloped out the door. Apple Bloom rolled her eyes and ran after her brother. If AJ was in trouble, there was no force under heaven that would keep her from her sister. As she sped across that yard, hot on her brother's trail, she saw her sister come stomping out of the cow barn, each hoof leaving a deep print in the hard-packed earth. "Darn it, all fighting no good half-wit. Big Mac, Apple Bloom, what y'all doing out here?" Big Mac stopped short and frowned back at Apple Bloom for following him. Apple Bloom, for her part, was paying her brother no attention at all. "Sis, what happened to you? You're all big now, and you got a horn and everything." Applejack grimaced. "Well, I don't rightly know myself, Blooms. Just something that happened last night." "AJ, this ain't just something," said Big Macintosh. "I think y'all need to talk to the princesses. If you like them, you got a responsibility to like them too." "Mac, I ain't gotta do nothing. The farm and family is all that matters. Nothing and no pony has any more claim on me just 'cause I have wings and a horn." As the family carried their argument inside, No Pony noticed that in each of the deep hoof prints left by AJ stomping was a tiny flower, blooming for all it was worth. This is Alice Centaur Bruni. I'm sorry for mistakes, and I may have mispronounced the chapter title at the beginning. I think it's Latin, not sure. I might mispronounce some other chapter titles. I'll try not to, but, well, till next time.